Welcome to Darkened Hour. Tonight, 3 true stories. All submitted by real people. All investigated. None fully explained. The one that counted. I work night shifts at a fulfillment warehouse outside of Lansing, Michigan. This was January of last year. I'd just come off a double, 16 hours on the floor, and I got home around 6:40 in the morning. My wife was already up getting our daughter ready for school. I kissed them both, ate half a bowl of cereal I didn't finish, and went upstairs. I remember pulling the blackout curtains. I remember the sound of my daughter's cartoon playing faintly through the floor. And then I was asleep. The first thing I noticed was the light. Not darkness, light. The curtains were glowing orange, which meant it was afternoon. I'd slept maybe 7 hours. But I couldn't move. Not the dramatic, thrashing kind of can't move. Just nothing responding. Like the connection between my brain and my body had been quietly severed while I wasn't paying attention. I knew what sleep paralysis was. I'd had it once before, in college. You wait it out. You breathe. You don't panic. So I breathed. I stared at the ceiling. And then I became aware that something in the room was also breathing. Not loudly. Not a horror movie wheeze. Just a rhythm that wasn't mine. Slow. Patient. Coming from the left side of the bed. My wife's side. I couldn't turn my head. That's the thing people don't understand about sleep paralysis, you don't get to look. You just get to lie there and know. And I knew something was crouched beside the bed. I focused on the ceiling. A water stain up there. Shaped vaguely like a boot. I'd looked at it 100 times. I made myself count the edges of it. 1, 2, 3. Something touched my hand. Not grabbed. Touched. The way you'd tap someone's knuckles to get their attention. 2 light taps on the back of my left hand, which was lying palm down on top of the blanket. I tried to scream. I produced nothing. The breathing continued. And then, and this is the part I've turned over in my mind maybe 1,000 times since, it counted back. 1, 2, 3. A voice. Quiet. Coming from directly beside my left ear, which meant whatever it was had moved without me hearing it cross the room. The voice was calm. It didn't sound monstrous. It sounded like someone reading numbers off a clipboard. 4. I came out of it on 5. Full body jerk. Gasping, rolled sideways and fell half off the bed. Hit the nightstand. The lamp crashed. My wife came running upstairs because she'd heard it. She found me sitting on the floor between the bed and the wall, staring at the corner near the closet. She asked me what happened. I told her sleep paralysis. She got me water. She sat with me for a while. And I didn't tell her the rest of it because I didn't want to say it out loud. Because here's what I hadn't mentioned. When I'd fallen out of bed and looked toward the closet, the door was open. We keep it closed. My wife keeps it closed because our daughter is afraid of open closets at night, and it became a household habit, years ago, automatic. The closet was open. And on the inside of the door, at about waist height, were 2 small marks in the paint. Like someone had been pressing on it from the inside. Counting. That next story comes from a woman in Nashville who, until October of 2021, had never lost a single night's sleep to anything she couldn't explain. Someone else's dream. I was 26, living alone in a studio apartment in East Nashville. This was October 2021. I'd just started a remote job doing medical billing, and my sleep schedule had gotten bad, staying up until 2, 3 in the morning, sleeping through the alarm, the whole cycle. My apartment was on the 3rd floor of an older building. Big windows. The kind of place where you hear your neighbor's footsteps in the ceiling. I'd never had sleep paralysis before. The first time, I thought I was still dreaming. I was lying on my back, which I never do. I'm a side sleeper, and I couldn't move, and there was a woman standing at the foot of my bed. She was turned away from me. Just standing there, facing the wall. Dark hair down to her shoulders. Wearing something light-colored. And she was completely still. I watched her for what felt like a long time. My brain ran through explanations. Sleepwalking. Burglar. Dream logic. The explanations didn't help because none of them were good. Then I came out of it. Bolted upright. Empty room. For 17 a.m. on the clock. I wrote it off. She came back 3 nights later. Same position. Foot of the bed. Facing the wall. Same hair. Same stillness. This time I noticed something I hadn't before. The wall she was facing, there was nothing on it. I'd never hung anything there. Just bare white paint. But she was standing in front of it the way you'd stand in front of a window. Like she was looking at something I couldn't see. I started timing it on the clock. She was always there between 4:10 and 4:20. Always in that corner. Always with her back to me. I want to be clear, I know sleep paralysis causes hallucinations. I know the brain does strange things in hypnagogia. I'm not saying she was real. But I started researching the building. And I found a local Facebook group for the neighborhood, and in that group there was a post from 2019 from someone who had lived in my unit, 3rd floor, East Side, Studio C, who was looking for information about a woman who had been their neighbor. The post said the neighbor had died in the unit. Alone. And that she'd been there for several days before anyone found her. The post said the neighbor was always looking at that east wall. Because she'd told anyone who'd visit that she could see something in it. She'd ask them, "Can you see that?" They never could. I moved out in November. But the part 1 keep coming back to, the part 1 haven't been able to frame properly in any telling of this story, is what happened the last night. She turned around. Still paralyzed. Couldn't move, couldn't close my eyes. She turned around slowly, and she looked at me, and her expression wasn't frightening. She looked relieved. Like she'd finally gotten someone to look at the wall with her. I don't know what I would have seen if I'd followed her gaze. I came out of it before I could. I still don't look at blank walls in the dark. I'm aware of how that sounds. I do it anyway. Our final story was submitted by a teacher in Ohio, and of all the accounts we've received on this channel, it is the one that has stayed with me the longest. The shape he left. My name isn't important. I'm a high school history teacher in a suburb outside of Columbus, Ohio. I've been teaching for 11 years. I say this because I want you to understand that I am not someone who frightens easily, and I am not someone who embellishes. My father passed away in March of 2022. Heart attack. He was 67 and healthy, and it was fast, and I didn't get to say goodbye. I drove to my parents' house in Akron for the funeral arrangements, and I stayed in my old childhood bedroom for 4 days. The sleep paralysis happened on the 2nd night. I was on my back. I notice I always seem to be on my back for these, which I've since read is common, and I woke into that familiar heavy stillness. I hadn't had an episode since my 20s. I recognized it. I tried to stay calm. My childhood bedroom faces the backyard. My father built a small workshop back there, maybe 40 feet from the house. He spent most weekends in it. It still had his tools. Nobody had touched it. The window was across from the bed. And there was a light on in the workshop. I stared at it. Amber light. The kind his old work lamp made. The one he'd had for 25 years, the clamp-on kind he'd attached to whatever he was working on. The light moved. Slowly. The way it moves when someone is carrying it, walking from one end of the workshop to the other. I told myself my mother had gone out there. Grief makes people do strange things. It was almost midnight, but grief makes people do strange things. And then I heard the footsteps on the stairs. Slow. Heavy. A particular rhythm, right foot, pause, left foot. I knew that rhythm. My father had had a bad left knee for 15 years. He always came up the stairs that way. Right foot, pause, left foot. The footsteps stopped outside my bedroom door. I could not move. I could not speak. The light in the workshop was still. The door didn't open. But the handle moved. Very slowly. Turned down, held, then released. As if someone had tried it gently, and then decided not to come in. I came out of paralysis when the handle clicked back into place. I sat up. I went to the door and opened it. Empty hallway. My mother's door at the end of the hall, closed. I checked on her. She was asleep. In the morning I went to the workshop. I told myself it was to check the lamp, that maybe there'd been an electrical issue, that it had just switched on by itself. The lamp was in its place. Unplugged. But the workbench had been cleared. My father kept it covered in half-finished projects. Wood shavings. Coffee cans of screws. All of it pushed to the edges. In the center of the workbench there was a single object. A photograph. Of me. Elementary school age, maybe 8 or 9. I was sitting in that workshop watching him work, which I used to do for hours, and someone had taken a picture of it and I'd never seen this photograph before in my life. On the back, in his handwriting, the date. March 18th. The day he died. I don't know when he wrote it. I don't know when it was printed. I asked my mother, and she had never seen it either. It sits on my desk at home now. I don't have a way to end this story. I'm not sure I want one. Those were 3 true stories. If something like this has happened to you, share it in the comments. And if you are watching alone, close the curtains.